Well, hey folks, welcome to the Triple H Ranch, and today we're going to be making one of my all-time favorite dishes that my wife makes all the time, and it's a Austrian or Hungarian goulash. It is a very hearty dish, easy to make, and as you'll see, when it's paired with some Speatzle, you can't beat it in terms of something that should become one of your favorites. You sleepy? What we're going to do also is we're going to have a special guest, Mrs. Triple H herself, will be joining us, and she'll show us how to make that authentic Speatzle. And as always, we're going to get started with the ingredients first, so stay tuned and enjoy this recipe. Okay, so for the ingredients, what you're going to need is you're going to need about 2 pounds of beef stew. And again, I like to take the beef stew that you get at the grocery store and cut it up even finer. You're going to need 2 large onions chopped. And chop them fairly small, and it may seem like a lot of onion, but it's really not. You're going to need 1 bell pepper as well, chopped up. You're going to need a 32-ounce box of beef broth. You may not use it all, but you need to have it on hand. You're going to need a can of tomato paste, a small can. Some Hungarian sweet paprika. You're going to need about 2 teaspoons of this. A bay leaf, about a teaspoon of majoram, 3 or 4 cloves of garlic, nice sized cloves. You're going to need about a teaspoon of vinegar. I use apple cider. And of course, you're going to need some salt and pepper to taste, as well as some olive oil. And that's about it. And the ingredients will be, for the goulash, will be posted at the end of the video, as well as the ingredients for the Speatzle. They will also be posted, and we'll get into the ingredients for the Speatzle later on when Mrs. Triple H makes her appearance. Okay, so we're ready to get started. So I've got my pan heated up on medium heat. Going to put in some olive oil. Get that mixed around a little bit, and I'm using like a carbon steel pan here. Holds the heat really well, and then we're going to put in our meat. Gonna add a little salt. A little pepper. Give that a stir. And all we're going to do here is we're going to put some color on this meat. We're not going to try and cook it. We're just simply browning it. And once we get it browned, we're going to set it aside while we make the sauce. Okay, so I'm going to let this brown for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so after about 5 minutes, we can turn the meat off. It's got a little bit of color on it now, as you can see. I'm just going to move that off to the side and get the pot that we're going to make the goulash in ready. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Turn the heat back up to medium. Okay, and to that we're going to add our 2 onions. And what I did was I went ahead and put some salt and pepper, just a pinch in the onion. Going to add the bell pepper. And we're going to stir these and sweat them down. And we'll be right back. Okay. So after the onions cook for a couple minutes and they're starting to get clear, we're going to go ahead and take our 4 cloves of garlic, and we're going to Press those in there. Okay, we're with the garlic in there. Get back in here. We're going to give that a good stir. Okay. Now we're going to add the vinegar, a teaspoon of vinegar. We're going to add our majoram, paprika, and the tomato paste. And we're going to stir until we get it all well incorporated. Make sure you cook that paste for just a minute before you go adding any broth and meat. Okay, so now we've added the tomato paste, the majoram, the vinegar, and the paprika. Once the onions were sweated down, we added in the majoram, the paprika, and the tomato paste, and we've cooked this tomato paste just a little bit. Now what we can do is we can add back in the meat. Okay. We also added the garlic. We crushed those 4 cloves of garlic. We added that in there, and the teaspoon of vinegar. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add some broth, and at this point I'm just going to add enough to get to almost to the top, because that meat will still probably render out a little bit of water. So I'd rather cook it a little while on low, and then we'll see how much more we want to add. Okay, so we're going to turn this down. Actually, I'm going to put just a hair more. I'm going to turn it down and just cook it there on a low setting, and we'll be back. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes, maybe 15, and I just wanted to kind of see how, you know, the dish settled down from a liquid perspective after everything got added and settled in. And so clearly what I want to do now is I'm going to add my bay leaf, so I don't forget that, and I'm going to put some more sauce. Now, this is where people, you know, may like it thinner or thicker. That's about, okay. And you got to remember, you're going to cook this for another hour and a half to 2 hours. The longer the better, the more tender the meat will become. But I think just that's going to be perfect. Okay, so we're just going to let this cook on low. Now I'm going to turn it down to low, and I'm going to let it cook for probably 2 hours. And we'll see you back then. All right, so we have a treat. Mrs. Triple H is here, and she's going to show us how to make the Speatzle. So we have 3 cups of flour. We have a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of black pepper and 2 eggs. And then the water we have here is about a cup. And it'll depend. You'll add more or less depending on the consistency of the Speatzle. So we'll go ahead and begin the mixing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the salt, the garlic, and the black pepper. Give that a quick stir. Then we're going to crack the 2 eggs. Cracking them like a pro. And we're going to mix that up and add just a little bit of the water. And again, the water must be ice cold. Very important. And while we've got this, or while we're mixing, we do have a pot of water on the stove that we're bringing up to a boil. So we added the rest of that 1 cup of water, and it looks like we're going to end up using a little bit more. And giving that a stir. So we're going back for some more water. And what we're looking for is really kind of like the consistency of a thick pancake batter. You don't want it so thin that it just runs through the Speatzle maker, but at the same time it needs to have a little bit of a thin viscosity so that it can. But I think we're about there. So that's the Speatzle maker, so you can kind of see the size of the holes that the batter is going to end up having to go through. So, okay, we're going to give this a little more of a stir, and it looks like we've ended up using about 1 3/4 cups of water for this particular batch. Again, each flour is going to make that vary. So we're going to go over and start cooking. 1 3/4 cups of water has been used, and this was about 3 cups of flour. So you can kind of see the consistency here. Okay, and I think Mrs. Triple H, is that about right?
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to wait for the water to start boiling, and we're going to make Speatzle. Be right back. All right, so we got our water up to a good rolling boil, and now we're going to add a little bit of salt to the water, a good amount of salt, almost like if you were cooking pasta. Okay, and now the magic happens. So you have this device that you take your Speatzle dough and just kind of feed it into there. And what happens is it slowly drips down into the boiling water, as you can see. And each one of those becomes a little Speatzle, and they are just delicious. And nobody makes a better Speatzle than Mrs. Triple H. I said before, this dish here is probably responsible for 20 or 30 of my 60 pounds overweight. Okay, so you just slowly, you can't push this too fast. You're slowly letting this dough drip into the hot water, and as it does, it sets. And you just got to be patient, but you can see it's a fairly simple recipe in terms of ingredients, but the result is just incredible. So much better than rice or potatoes, anything else you could have. Now I know some people slide that device back and forth, but there's really no need to. right, Mrs. Triple H?
Nope, no need to.
And you can buy other Speatzle makers on Amazon that are basically like a pan with holes in it, and that'll certainly work fine too. You just want it to have something where the Speatzle has to slowly drip through so that it makes the right size.
A grater, a coarse grater, if you just have the single device,
Like a cheese grater or
like
something.
a big, yeah, with the rough grate,
Right.
that will work just the same.
Yeah.
It will do the same thing.
All right. So now you've got a pot full of Speatzle. And we're going to just let them cook for how long? A couple minutes?
We just let that come to a boil.
Back to a boil. Okay.
And then we drain them.
Okay. All right, so we'll be back once this comes to a boil. And
it's coming to a boil right now. I'm getting ready to take it off.
Oh, never mind. So you can see this whole process here has taken less than 5 minutes. And we're going to go over to the sink and we're going to drain them just like you would a pasta. Now you rinse them off and cool them down quickly, right?
Yes, so they don't stick. But you don't have to cool them down all the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Pass your test?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so we're almost at the finish line, but I wanted to show you kind of the texture and consistency of these Speatzle, right? And we can do a quick check in on our goulash. And you can see it is ready. And I want to point out something as well, that earlier in the video I had mentioned that while 2 large onions seemed like a lot of onion, as you can see, that basically cooks away. So what you've got left here is, you can see some of the bell pepper, but otherwise this is a very hearty dish and full of flavor. So we're gonna get this plated up here in just a minute and start to enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Triple H Ranch version of the Austrian Goulash and Spaetzle. One thing I did want to mention is that, you know, once you've got the goulash boiling or bring it up to temperature, you could put it in the crock pot and put it on low and cook it all day. To save you some time that you don't have to keep watching things. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I have a good time making these and kind of chronicling some of the recipes that are my favorites, and hopefully people will get some enjoyment out of them as well. So from our ranch to yours, have a great day.